And Carolee, just so you know, I dropped in the chat a worksheet that we're going to be using or that will be helpful for you. It's there. Feel free to grab that whenever. Um, I also have it in the event, so we have it there so you can find it when you're ready for it. Just wanted to let you know it's there. So I think I'm going to go ahead and just get started. And I'm going to talk and give the presentation. It's kind of broken up in different sections. If you have any questions, just feel free to shout them out. And there will be time to kind of, um, as we go through it and go through the handout specifically, like if you have questions or want to talk about what you have going, or what you think might work, feel free to just sort of chime in there, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so thank you so much for coming. Here we are. Um, as I start this class, I always like explaining who I am and what I'm doing and why I do what I'm doing. I have a home organization business that looks more than just at your stuff. Having too much stuff has more to do with where your mental space is than anything else. At Sunflower Life Organizing, we work with you to detangle your mental and physical space so that you can be successful in what you want to do in life. Why do we do this? I spent years trying to figure out how to organize an entirely neurodivergent family, all very different in their needs and aversions. I realized that most traditional home organization programs fail as neurodivergent folks. Some say give everything a place and just put it away when you're done, and that just hits differently when you're never really done with something, or there's always something else to do, running from one thing to the next. With that in mind, I created systems and processes to work with my neurodivergent clients to help create systems that actually work for what they want to do. Today, as we're going through, we have a few objectives. The first one is to know why our space and routines are important, especially for kids who are neurodivergent. And second is to understand all the parts necessary to create an after school calm down space for our children. And then the homework will be for you to create a system that works for you and your family. So a lot of people wonder why kids have such a struggle after school, or why their kids only melt down at home and not at school, or just what to do to support them in all of that. And as I've gone through the different studies and research that I've read, talks about a bunch of different things. One of the things that's really important to remember is that kids will only melt down when they feel safe and comfortable. So that's why we as moms, as caretakers, why they melt down with us, why we get the worst behaviors. A lot of people think, oh, this is my child and they should be on their best behavior with me. But in all actuality, what's going on is that when kids feel safe, that's when they can kind of let loose and not be on their best behavior. And instead of looking at as my child is misbehaving, my child is doing the things, just being a jerk, we have to look at it more as my child is struggling and what can I do to support them. First, I want to talk about what does after school look like in your home. Sometimes kids come home, they scatter, watch TV, run off to play, or do other things. But maybe by the end of the night, when it's time for homework or chores, or even turning off the TV, kids melt down. If you feel comfortable, what does after school look like um, with your family, with your daughter look like?
Yeah, we're in the past, so she's been in elementary school, but she's starting middle school.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's
So
a big
this is
step.
we're hoping to create something a little different because middle school is going to be a big shift. And I know that our home has never been very conducive to having a good homework after school environment. I also have a 22-year-old son, and when he was in elementary school, middle school, high school, I would just I allow them to come home and just kind of decompress a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because it's, they've been at school for a long, long time.
Yeah.
So typically when my kids have come home from school, they come home, they get themselves a snack, especially now that they're old enough to do that. Get my daughter gets herself a snack and she just kind of mellows down.
Hmm.
She'll watch something that she likes to watch. Uh, Sometimes she's super excited and she just wants to go hang out with a friend. And I just let her do her thing for a couple hours. We don't always have family dinner together, like at a table. We eat family food together, but my kids are super picky eaters and we don't always eat the same things. And so we have kind of a free for all environment, I guess I would say,
Yeah.
which is not really great. But then, you know, homework time, again, we haven't had a whole lot of specific homework that has to be done in
Mhm.
elementary school. So this is going to be a shift, but I would like to have a time designated that is sit down and do homework time, whether it's right after school or, after dinner, where she can focus on what she needs to get done for the day.
Mhm.
Um, and then bedtime is usually we start bedtime routine around 9 o'clock. My daughter is very self-sufficient and independent, so she does her own thing when she knows if she wants to shower that day or not and what she likes to do. But 9 p.m. during the school year is start getting things shut down and calm down to get to bed.
That sounds like you've got some good things going on. I like that you're talking about that decompression time. I think that's super important, and we'll talk more about that a little bit later. It sounds like you are have a handle on how it's been and are preemptively kind of looking to what might this look like in the future? What,
Yes.
how's this going to affect, how's more homework and maybe more stress going to affect her life and what that kind of wants to look like.
And for the first time, both of my kids have been diagnosed with ADD, not ADHD, although I know they're basically the same thing, but they don't have the super hyperactivity.
Okay.
Um, Although my daughter, I think she probably is more ADH because nighttime for her, like right before bedtime, she does get a little bit pumped up.
Yeah.
She's also a night owl, but
Which is
she
fun
is
when
now,
school starts
yeah,
at 8 o'clock.
exactly, right. We just started her on some ADD medication, a very low dose ADD
Uh-huh.
med that she started taking in May.
Yeah.
And once summer hit, we haven't had her take it. But my son also took an ADD med, and we didn't start him soon enough, and it really hurt his grades and his focus in middle school. So we did start that. I'm not sure how that's going to affect her overall focus because she only used it for a few weeks just to
Mhm.
see what she thought about it. So
Yeah.
that's going to be interesting. That's just a new component in our daily routine now.
Yeah. I like that you're being flexible with that and saying, "Hey, we want to see how this works," but also looking at other options and different things that can be supportive as well. Uh,
Yeah.
I think that's great. Sometimes people say, "Oh, my kid's on this ADHD med, and that's going to solve all the problems," and they do help a lot. Like I've noticed that with my kids. Both my kids are on a ADHD med, and I can definitely tell a difference when they are versus when they're not. Um, but my son, who's 14 and has been on them for a couple years now, started saying things like, "Oh, I couldn't control myself because I didn't take my ADHD meds today." And I was like, "No, we're not doing that. This is a tool that we're using. We have other tools that we're using, but we're not going to blame not having the tool on why we can't function. We're going to take accountability for our actions and things like that." One thing I would like to discuss a little bit how, like, what my kids' after school routine looks like, and then we'll keep going. My kids, when they come home, my oldest is always like, "Mom, I just need some time, like you said, to decompress, to sit down and just sort of relax." The thing he loves doing is building with Legos. He'll sit down and he'll build something with his Legos, or he'll read a book, or he will do other things kind of in his own room, just like, okay, letting go of all of that stress. Um, when he was younger, though, he struggled a lot. Even like first, second grade, he'd come home from school and he would just have a meltdown. He'd walk in the door, or even like when we were walking home from school, he would just, he'd be very upset, sometimes not listening as much, kind of just doing his own thing. And that super frustrated me for a while. That he would have this time that his teacher would say, "Oh yeah, he did great and he did all these things and he was this happy, smiling kid." And then he's coming through the door and he's, if I ask him to do anything, he's crying or yelling. He's fighting with me or just not listening to what I said. And I didn't really like that. And I was like, why won't my kid behave for me the way they're behaving at school? Why am I having these different experiences in that space? Um, and that's when I started to learn this. Hey, we need this transition time. A lot of neurodivergent people, he's on the autism spectrum as well. A lot of neurodivergent people struggle with that transition time of, hey, we're in this one space and now we're moving into this other space, and there's these different rules that I have to remember and live by in these different spaces. And as we're coming back into home and being there, we have to remember, oh, we act like this, we don't act like this, but also kids in their home environment get to relax, get to not feel like they're just doing the things and that they have to be on their full guard. First thing I noticed was that there's these different, I could see different signs, different things that were going on, that there was going to be a meltdown. I could notice, hey, maybe he's at high energy, maybe he's getting frustrated at little things, maybe he's yelling at his brother for something little. And I could notice those things and say, okay, there's something going on. We need to do something to help him handle and manage all of these emotions well. Also just saying, hey, I know kids have been at school all day. It's been a stressful situation. They're not in control of all the things there. So having that built-in calm down time when they're not at school anymore, when they get home, helps them in a multitude of ways. On the one hand, yes, it's that time to relax, time to just be themselves and do the things that they enjoy doing, but also not having people saying, you need to do this, you need to do this, and being in a safe space. And so in creating these systems to help kids after school, it's important to keep in mind that we're doing this for their mental health, but we as parents also need to be mindful of our mental health, right? We need to, I'm not always good at helping my kid calm down when I'm stressed. And kids will notice when we're stressed. And so taking that time for everybody to kind of decompress, come back into this. Kids were at school, parents were working, back into this. How are we having good interactions in our family is important. As we think of the system and what kids actually need in this, there's a few things that they need, but the first thing is the predictability, knowing that there is something, there's a time that they don't have to worry about the things, that they can just relax. So having something that happens every day after school is important for them. And so taking time before the school year even starts to sit down and start talking about these things. What are we going to do so that we can manage this? That predictability is really important. It also, as kids see the routineness, see how, okay, I know that every day I'm going to have this time that I can just relax when I get home. That helps them build the resilience they need at school to be able to keep doing the things that they need to do there. You'll see this on the worksheet as well. The first thing that I like to suggest to people, and you hit it right on the nail when you were talking earlier, the time to just decompress, time to be home and just be. That time is so important for kids. Of how are we actively decompressing and being conscientious of our our time. You mentioned that your daughter likes to sit down and watch TV. And that's a great place to start having that routine. I always like to suggest not having screens at this point in the process. Finding something that's intentionally moving the energy, whether they're listening to music or dancing or doing like some sort of exercise, doing something that's creative. A lot of kids who are on the autism spectrum, or neurodivergent in general have different sensory needs. Sometimes having a certain kind of sensory thing, some kids like spinning, some kids like the feel of weighted blankets. Some kids like having sensory deprivation, so sitting like in a dark room, not really feeling anything. These kind of things help kids to decompress. And the reason the reason I suggest not TV or video games is just that TV and video games doesn't give our kids time to kind of reassess how they're feeling in their body. It is a great distraction, and it is, my kids love video games because of the predictability of them. In school, when you're dealing with all these kids that have different things that they're doing, that's hard for them to understand why, if I did this and I got this outcome this time and I did the same thing and got a different outcome, that's difficult for them to understand. Whereas video games keep that, oh, if I do this, this always happens. So I always like to initiate the decompress time, just as a, we're not doing anything on screens, we're doing something that personally feeds our soul. Carolee, is there things that your daughter likes doing that help her kind of de-stress that's not watching TV?
That's a good question. Kind of depends on the day. Sometimes she really likes listening to music.
Mhm.
Sometimes she likes to read. She loves to just hang out with our dog.
Yeah,
But we are, unfortunately, our family currently is so screen oriented
yeah.
that, yeah, that's something I'm excited to talk with her about that. And as we're talking about this new routine to get into, what could she do to
Yeah,
do something besides just, maybe even she can tell me about her day.
yeah.
Um, what do you recommend as far as time frame before kids could get more onto screens when that's something that they do enjoy? And you may talk about this later, but you have a
Mhm.
recommended time frame that you wait before kids can get on to play a video game or to watch TV or
Mhm.
something like that.
Yeah. The way, and this depends on how your family goes. My kids are they also really love screens. That's a big motivator for them. And the way I've set it up with them is that they have, like, we'll go through they'll do decompress time, and then they do homework and chores. And then when they've finished those things that they need to get done, then they earn that screen time. And we'll talk, that is a little bit more about where we're headed in this, but that's how we do it. That it's kind of the reward at the end of the day of saying, yeah, you got all these things done. Now you can earn this. Um, there's not, for my kids, there's not a specific timeline for, oh, you have this much time to decompress. Sometimes, I guess specifically how it works in my home is my kids get home anywhere between 3:45 and 4 o'clock. And then they have as long as they want to do their decompression. But they know that for us and our family, what we do is that from 4 to 6 is the window that they can have screen time in the afternoon during the school year. So at most they're getting 2 hours of screen time, and it never is quite that much, because they will decompress. And then the next step that we're going to talk about, and you mentioned it too, is reconnecting time to talk with parents, talk with siblings, talk about our day, talk about what's going on. Some families, if parents aren't home when kids are home, kids can do things like writing in a journal about their day, or this step can be moved later in the day. when more people are around to talk about the day. But I think that reconnection, that okay, we've calmed our nervous system, we've done something that helps everybody kind of get back into we're intentionally being at home and spending time together. That reconnection time also is important. So that is the next step. So the first step is decompression. The second step is reconnection, getting back in, working together, talking through the day or not. Some kids, like my oldest, never, if I try to talk to him, I get like 2-word sentences. But he loves sitting with me on my bed while I'm reading a book or something and we're snuggling, and that helps him kind of reconnect back into things. And the amount of time the kids need to decompress will vary from kid to kid. Some kids it's 15 minutes, some kids need a whole hour. It just depends on what they are interested in and what if it's been a hard day or if they're struggling with something. Does that answer your question?
Yes, that does. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, I never want to be like, it should be 15 minutes of this and 15 minutes of this and 15 minutes of this because everybody is so different. And that's why I love talking with people and understanding what works for them and helping them live that, because our society is so based on we just have to go from one thing to the next, whether it's school, then sports, then dinner, then homework, then bed. Like there's always going to be all of those stresses on our kids. And our part of our job as parents is helping them manage that stress and helping them focus on what's most important and letting go of the things that aren't important for them. So after kids have had the time to decompress and then reconnect and kind of get back into, okay, I'm here, I'm available, I can interact with people, I can do the things. That's when I always suggest people do things like homework and reading, doing chores. If kids have extracurricular activities or if families do exercise, things like this. And then dinner time, these things are all in part of that engage of like, okay, how's our family working on this together? What are we doing to enjoy our time and not just be like, hey, we have to go from one thing to the next. For my kids, like I said, what they do is they have homework and chores, and I kind of move things around and do it in a way that works for my family. That part of that is also they get their screen break of, hey, we get play video games or watch a TV show or something like that. But that's all after they've finished the things that they need to get done. And this is obviously very child dependent and family dependent. My kids have some amount of homework, but not a lot of homework. My my older son, the way the school he's at runs, and because of his IEP, he has a class that he goes to 2 days a week that's kind of time to work on homework and projects and things that he's not getting done in class. So he doesn't bring as much homework home, which is good for him because he does need a lot of decompression time. And to be honest, even like when he does get screens, that is a decompression time for him as well. But it's after he's done the things that he needs to do as part of our family, the chores that he does. Our family has different days. They have different chores that they have to do just as part of being our family and keeping our home going. So that's the kind of the engage, getting the meat of the things that need to happen after school. And then I always encourage families to rest at the end, whether that's playing games together, eating dinner together, doing video games, anything like that to help kids decompress and get ready for the next day at school. They say that the time just before bed and just before school are like the most important times for kids, because those are when they get the rest, they get the connection, and they get the time with parents. A lot of parents nowadays work, both parents are working, and there's not a lot of time to see the kids. So having those intentional times with family is important as well. Do you have any questions about any of that?
No, it's just I'm taking lots of notes and there's lots of great ideas that I'm thinking of,
Good.
not only for my daughter, but honestly for myself too, because I come home and I'm tired and we've all been in a really bad habit of coming home and we just sit down and other than having dinner, we all just kind of hang out together in front of the TV or the computer and I come home as exhausted as my family does, and that's never a good thing. So I'm thinking of things that I can do to reset myself as well as her, and that way we can continue to do some of the fun things that we've just recently started doing in the summertime and
Yeah.
continue that. So yeah, this is good.
Yeah, I love that. I've actually, as I've been writing this class, I've been thinking about what I need to do in my life and in like relationships with people. I was thinking about one thing in particular for me, like every day I have the way I've set my business and my schedule up is that I have a set schedule. It's usually like 9 to 3. That's time that I can do all my businessy things, my posting to social media and networking and working with clients and all of the things that you have to do as a business owner, right? And I said I'm going to do those between 9 and 3. And then from 3 to 4 every day, or 3 until my kids get home from school, is my time to kind of decompress so that I can be present for them. Because I'm like you, a lot of times it's like I've had a stressful, busy day, they've had a stressful, busy day. And instead of us maybe connecting in that, it's like they're doing their thing over there, I'm doing my thing over here. And it doesn't lead to the connection that I would like to have with my children. So I've been thinking about different things that I can do for me to help be a better person for me and better supportive of my kids as well. A lot of what we've talked about is just the routines that we need for things like that. The next part I want to talk about is what kind of space do you need for doing these things? Once you've talked to your daughter, your anybody, um, the people who are going to be doing this, and finding out what's going to work for them or what they think is going to work for them to start with. Being intentional about the space that you are creating for that. So I know some families, there's a lot of running around and, oh, we have all these extracurriculars and mom picks the kids up from school and we go from one thing to the next to the next. And that car ride time can be time to do the decompress thing. We can bring the things that we need to be in the car so that kids can have that time. We can have all of those things available. So even though we're on the go, we can still have the decompression and the reconnection time. We can still get through the things as we have all the things that we need to do. If that's not the way it is and you're at home, being conscientious of, do we want to have a separate space for this? If it's a sensory thing that the kids need, is there a way to put in a sensory swing or create a space in their bedroom that's like their calm down area or anything like that, so that there's a specific place that they can go and have that time that they need for themselves. Like I said, with my older son, he's just I'm gonna sit down and play with Legos. So he just sits down at his desk and builds Legos, and he's always like, look at these cool things that I built. And I love seeing that and love him having that space. We did intentionally create this is where your Legos are. This is how his Legos are stored, and have different things to help him find the pieces he's looking for. And he's set up a lot of things as well for himself of like how do I find these things? What pieces might I need for this? All of that kind of stuff. He's got a whole system and I let him manage it because he's happier when I do that. After we have a space that we're using for that space, we need to look at what we might need in those spaces, depending on what kids want to have in this calm down space. Having things like calm down lights or jars or weighted blankets or wiggle seats or a speaker to listen to music. Like my younger son loves listening to different stories on the Alexa. And so part of his space, like he will just go and lay on his bed and listen to a story, and that's how he calms down. He also has a hammock that he will swing in his room, and that helps him self-regulate as well. Some people also have this is a specific toy or craft thing or something that is like the only time that this item gets used is for this calm down time. Just so it's more special and more like, hey, I'm being intentional about my time, things like that.
Melissa, I have a question.
Yeah.
On the list of things, what is a calm down? You got calm down lights or jars? I've
Uh-huh.
never heard of a calm down jar. Tell me what that's all about.
Calm down jars, it's like a mason jar or a bottle, whatever you have that you mix, and you can buy them or you can make them that have like glitter, that it's just something to look at. When my kids were a lot younger, we had some of these, and when they were agitated, we'd shake it up and say, okay, you need to just, the expectation was they would watch like the glitter fall. And when it had got to when the glitter had fallen out and whatever, then that was time that was enough time for them to calm down. So it's just kind of I don't know, it's
I
just an
love that.
idea.
That's cool.
Um,
Yeah.
my envision of calm down lights are like the galaxy lights that you see now. That's like, oh, it looks like a galaxy. Or my son
Mm.
has one it looks like a night sky. Things like that can be helpful. There's also like different LED strip lights that you can set them up to do different things, whether it's flashing or changing like through rainbow colors, anything like that. Um, a lot of neurodivergent folks find that watching something like that helps kind of soothe the brain, helps quiet things going on. So yeah, thank you for asking a question.
Cool. Yeah.
Um, I wanted to ask you, as you're thinking through things with this, what have you thought might be useful for a space? Do you think that having a separate space would be important, or do you think using like her bedroom as a space? I'm curious if you've had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, my big thought is, holy moly, I mean, as far as a calm space, her bedroom is most of the time is a very calm place, especially if she has made her bed in the morning. Our living room is a comfortable place that we spend a lot of time just kind of being mellow. Even though we
Hmm.
spend a lot of time watching TV, it's a very calm place.
Yeah.
But the one thing that we don't have a lot of in our house is extra space. So, like my son has a desk in his room that has now become just more of a storage place for his things. But when he was in school, he had his own desk on one side of his room. And I'm trying to decide what to do. And that's something I'll have to discuss with my daughter too, is the best place for her to be able to study and have
Hmm.
it more of a transition, because our dining room table has always been the homework table other than my son's desk. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, I mean, as far as calm space, I've got ideas in our home, but as far as homework and focus places, that's one thing I'm gonna have to work on and figure out.
Okay. And that's, I
And
know you've got
maybe,
that
sorry,
time
what was that?
scheduled. So I know we've got that time scheduled later this month, and
Right.
that's something
Yes.
we can look at when I come over too.
And that may be my husband's office, honestly, because once he's done with work, he doesn't have to be down there, and it is a
Mhm.
quiet place.
Yeah.
That might be something that we create and have a secondary purpose for his office, which is a place that my daughter can go and I can help her with homework. And it's not in her room, it's not in the living room, it's not in the dining room. it is more of a focused workspace because that's what it's used for during the day anyway.
Yeah, I like that. That sounds like a really great idea. Do you have any other questions about anything we've talked about so far?
Not so far. Nope, you're explaining things very well, and I'm excited to have
Good.
this all put together in one place, one
Yeah,
reference.
good. The only other thing I want to talk about with it is that yes, we're creating a system that wants to be similar and wants to be we want to have it very predictable and hey, after school every day I have a thing that I can do to come down to calm down and decompress from school and everything. The thing I want to talk about is how it can be adjusted as you go through things as as your experience and your needs kind of change. For me, like I always like to check in on a monthly basis to say, hey, how is this going? What's working, what's not working? Um, it definitely doesn't have to only be a once a month thing if things shift up. It definitely also like once we say, hey, we have this calm down routine that we're doing, it doesn't have to be that every day my kid has to play Legos. It doesn't have to be that every day we're going for a walk or we're whatever. We can switch it up. We can do different things. We can check in with our bodies and just say, what does my body need today? Because calming down one day for me may look like resting my body or doing some stretching or something. And the next day might look like doing a craft or something like that. So this is something that wants to be flexible. We want to hold the structure of it kind of rigid and say every day we're doing this, we're going through all of the steps, we're getting through all the things, but the specific, hey, today I'm calming down with Legos versus hey, I'm calming down with a walk is perfectly acceptable as long as we're checking in and saying this is what feels good in my body. This is what feels good for me, for our family, for my child, whoever's kind of trying to make that uh, making that switch up. And that's about what I've got for this. That we create this, we're flexible with it as it can be, and we use it to for kids to be successful. So they're not having meltdowns or not having missed assignments at school or not having big fights and blow ups with siblings because she's doing this and I want to do that. And everybody is getting those needs met, that calm down need met, that need to get whatever needs to get done that day, all of the things. Do you have any questions?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Um, well, actually, I do have one question. I don't know what your community looks like since this is my first time really spending time with you. Do most people understand what neurodivergent means? Because we've talked about it and I've read about it before, but I look up the definition again. But do
Mhm.
most people know or understand what that means when you're talking
Um,
about setting things up for someone with a neurodivergent mind?
it's something I talk about frequently, and a lot of
Oh,
people who come to my class are neurodivergent in some way. Um, ADHD, also autism, OCD, and anxiety are kind of the ones that I focus on when I am creating content. But it really, yes, usually my people understand that, and I'm always happy to explain when somebody has a question about it. But
okay. I
because
didn't
I've
didn't mean to throw you off.
no, you're fine. I appreciate the question. I should probably can um, start with a little bit more about that. But that's a good question. Thank you.
Well, what you do is so important, and now understanding a little bit more, realizing how neurodivergent my whole family is,
Mhm.
and knowing that there are people like you that are able to help us look at different ways to function better and just find different routines and ways that we can all be present but also work together and not just be butting heads because we as parents feel like we're right on it sometimes, and kids want to have their own opinions, and they're figuring their own little lives out. And um,
Mhm.
this is just giving me a different way of looking, a different perspective, so that we can have a different home life instead of this is the way it is versus the kids saying rebelling and saying no, this is what I want. Just finding that happy medium to work together. So thank you. I really appreciate this. This is a good
Yeah,
class today.
you're welcome. One of the other classes that I usually teach on, I have a basic class that I teach, and then this was kind of a how do we extrapolate to that? The basic class that I like teaching, and I can share the handouts and stuff with you, is that I have a handout that I've created, and it's the basis for a book that I'm writing, that talks about different traits and different neurodivergencies, and how to like different routines or things that you can do to work with that to make it, instead of making it a drawback, to a strength. And I've set it up in a way that a family can take it, and like you could go through it and you could say these are the things that I struggle with, and like mark them off, like in one colored marker or something. And then your husband can go through and say these are the things that I struggle with in his separate color, so you can see, okay, I'm struggling with this thing, he's struggling with this thing, daughter's struggling with these things, son's struggling with these things. Okay, now we have all that information, and we can take that into the systems that we create so that they work for everybody. I've worked with a lot of people that say, oh, my wife wants it done this way, and I never ever do it right, so I just let her do it. And that always breaks my heart a little bit, because if it's a space for the whole family to be there working together, I think everybody should be contributing equally. Gone are the days, I think, that mom has to be the one in charge of the house. It's time for everyone to put their bring what they have and be able to be a part of whatever system is in the home. I think that's very important.
I would agree with that. I love that very much. Thank you.
Yeah. That's what I got for today. I really appreciate your willingness to participate in this, and to share what you've got going on, so that we could talk a little bit about it. And I'm excited to hear how things go for you in this.
Well, we will definitely talk about it when we meet up. And
Yeah.
school starts in 2.5 weeks, so we'll see how things go. This is going to be good, though. I really am looking forward to it.
Yeah. Perfect.
Well, thanks so much, Melissa.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And we'll talk soon.